Hello, everybody. I recorded several videos, and the subject matter was such that I figured I actually don't want to publicly comment on this. And so, I made a bunch of videos where I was like getting into some stuff, and I was like, actually would rather not publish this stuff. And then I thought to myself, this is interesting because I started this YouTube channel with the understanding that I would just be able to talk about whatever I wanted, but now I find myself saying, no, that's not a good idea. Like some stuff you probably shouldn't just mouth off to anybody, even if the, contributions to a certain discourse one makes might be, serious or useful or something. It's just not always a good thing. And then I wondered, well, why? What the hell am I even supposed to be talking about then? Why did I even start this? Because all the stuff that I want to talk about in my daily life, usually some of it is provocative, and then I'm like, that's kind of strange because I don't set out for that. It's just in real life you have more choice over the context surrounding what you say and why you bring it up and how you can, leave an impression that's good and everything. On the internet, you don't have as much choice on those things, do you? And anything can kind of be taken out of context, or somebody can be having a bad day, or they're being very obsessive and hanging on to every word that you say because it's the only thing that's being dangled in front of them. And it's just a totally different context that these are different contexts that the publisher doesn't always have control over. So you have to just be, and there's an extent to which that's not the publisher's responsibility, but if it's like if it's actually of a personal stake to the individual, then it just is. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to comment on this stuff. And then I'm like, all right, so what has been the purpose of my life even? Not that it's settled for now, but there was a time not too long ago when all of culture and discourse was so censored and repressed, and it made even normal, like, non-political thoughts impossible to be had because everything was subject to this partisan scrutiny that was terrible, 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 terrible. And it's finally gotten to a point in things both public and private for me where I don't have to be worried about that stuff too much, but I'm always thinking about it. It's like I'm not going to say PTSD, but it's like, it is kind of like a shell shock. It's like the ghosts of this period are still in the brain. The brain is scarred. The brain is scarred. There are brain scars, mental scars, scarring. That's, probably, actually, I'm sure that could be, if somebody scanned my brain and other people's brains who feel a similar way, there's probably a way in which this is actually true. But I remember all this stuff all the time. And even the more I learn and read, because I'm in a position now to, because these people were going, oh my God, I'm almost doing it. People were going after the books you could read. Like, it was crazy, the degree of, like, cerebral control that people wanted to exercise. And the more I read, the more I come to, like, an independent and nuanced relationship with the world. I just get reminded of, like, man, that was like, there were so many people trying to take that away from me just a few short years ago. And it's just like, dude, what does that mean? Like, what is the weight of that? Should I even forget this stuff? Should I be worried about the next time it happens? Should I even be worried about the fact that conversation is not even resolved? It has spilled into the present Trump administration, but, like, so much stuff was just kind of, like, suspended because of that. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go back to that world. That world sucked. That was terrible. And I don't even want to be, like, so angry about it to where I'm just, like, I'm still thinking about, like, getting justice or something, because it keeps you furthermore still imprisoned. So it's a difficult tension, and it's like, how do you move forward from that? And I maybe other people feel like they've had these conversations going on in the back of their head too, where it is like there's so much stuff that happened over the last several years that we kind of have to, like, what, we move on from it now or what? I think that I think we should exercise our freedom to the extent that we have it. If we have, like, if we're free from certain trends and certain philosophy that was going around, or pseudo philosophy, and I'm Pseudo-Aristocracy. Check out the title of my channel. Okay, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? I'm not even trying to like associate myself with this stuff, but some of these ideas are gone. Okay, or at least they're not as powerful as they used to be. We should just build stuff like being indifferent to it and just kind of move on. Like remember it, okay, but move on because then we'll have a totally separate culture's like a random number generator. All these variables just kind of mix and react and you get like a paradigm and it's kind of like mathematically random in a way all the different variables that inform it and I feel like if we just operate freely we're gonna shake the etch a sketch and get something pretty new. I know that these echoes and these trends and these legacies they get thrown into perpetuity but at least for me I'd like people to be more in a stronger position to have contrast from the dichotomies, the social dichotomies that were really being leveraged several years ago, and get used to and familiar with seeing the world in totally separate terms, because that will make the connection between agitators and culture harder. It will be harder for them to influence stuff. If we just are dealing with a totally like separate set of ideas. And that's kind. I just remember how bad that period was, and I'm like, no, that might be naive, but we should try this while we can. And if it starts looking like things are ever going to go back to as bad as they have been, and still are in some places more secretively or less emphatically today, then we can deal with that. And we'll at least have we'll have explored life and lived it richly enough to where we have like broader horizons to draw from whenever we're put in a defensive position again. Because like at a basis, I'll even just say if what I speak of embodies like a classical liberal perspective on ideas, like even to that extent, that's better than being like constantly like the Japanese soldier who thinks the war's still going on and it's the 70s, right? So we can pool our resources and defend ourselves if things ever get crazy again. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. And typically, wasn't the argument that people were making? They were like, if you do stuff without keeping our social theory in view, what you're doing is like transgressive and it makes life hard for us. So if you just ignore these people and kind of move on from them, you're probably still like contributing to that cultural conversation without knowing it. You understand what I mean? And it's probably better to just bury them, because I'm so angry about that stuff. That made me this made me like nasty. It's made parts of my brain nasty. I think about this stuff all the time. And then occasionally you get a murmur, you get you remember that these ideas are out there and you see the death that they cause. You see the murder and the violence and the emptiness and the nothingness that they cause. And you see it and you're just supposed to look at it and like what it's like, yeah, it's like a war flashback. It's like, okay, fuck you, Taliban. It's like, but you're in Minnesota. So it's tricky stuff. All right. Maybe that was too much. Maybe I shouldn't have uploaded this video, but I think it was a little more understandable.